because we don't talk and so Heather and I just kind of been brainstorming just about like what kind of things changed for us when it came to the postpartum journey or any of that when it came to Plexus. And I just really think that a lot has helped, and just really focusing on our bodies and paying attention to our bodies and just all the things we don't talk about, like just the uncomfortableness after you go into being postpartum and the doctor's like, oh, are you emotional? Oh, do you have baby blues? Oh, do you have all this? And it's like all of your hormones, not to talk about like pumping and breastfeeding and trying to do it all. And it's just such a subject we don't talk about and we're not comfortable talking about. And it's like, so many people go through it. Why are we not comfortable talking about it? So Heather and I just kind of just really brainstormed about what our bodies went through and kind of talked about it and just like all of the stuff. So, we'll go ahead and start off with Heather. Heather, do you want to talk about like you had a Plexus baby? What was the difference that you noticed that prior to the babies, or like how your body was feeling, or some of that you just had to like learn to listen to your body and what it needed and figure out how to give it what it needed?
Yeah, so I am really excited for this, and Lydia had this vision and passion about this. Like, I was talking to her today, like this is so fun. I think it's a passion for all of us mamas to talk about your birth stories. But okay, so like I said a minute ago, I have delivered 8 babies. I started really young. I was 18 when I got pregnant. I was not walking with the Lord at the time, and had my oldest when I turned 19. And at that point, I didn't know I don't know everything now, but I didn't know anything, I feel like, then. So I went to the doctor, and OB just did whatever they said, like, you do this, 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 and whatever, and here's your baby. So my first 3 babies, which was fine. It worked out great. They were healthy babies. I had good pregnancies. It was good. So my first 3 babies, I delivered in the hospital. My third baby, the first 2 were full term. My third baby, I delivered at 33 weeks, and he was in the NICU for quite a long time. Recovery from that, even though he was totally natural, recovery was extremely hard. Like, if you've had a NICU baby, you probably understand, but that was by far the hardest. Even though he was the tiniest, he was less than 4 pounds when he came home after being discharged from the hospital. So he was a tiny baby, but the emotions, the breastfeeding, everything was really hard with that baby. So then we were going to be done. We were like, that was hard. I don't ever want to go through any of that again. But we prayed a lot and met with a midwife and decided, well, let's try for a home birth after that chaos. But we doctored with an OB at a hospital, and then also had a midwife, and ended up having a home birth. And so then from then, I have had 4 home births. And then I had 1 more birth in the hospital, not my last one, the one before that. And I had that one in the water. So the last 5 babies have been a water birth as well. And those were all unmedicated vaginal birth. My first 2, they were medicated. I didn't feel a thing, and I was okay with it. So I've had a lot of different things. And then my very, very last one, Ian, I was on Plexus the entire time. So I started Plexus when Quinny, the baby before him that I had in the hospital, I started when she was a few months old. So I saw a difference with like my hormones and things afterwards, and my milk supply with her. So I got to use it while I was breastfeeding. And then I continued, and I haven't stopped Plexus for the last 2.5 years. So I got to use it all through my last pregnancy. But to answer Lydia's question, oh my word, I have never felt so good being pregnant. And I'm getting older. Like, I'm not getting younger having these babies. So you typically, when you're having more babies and you're getting older, it should probably be opposite. But you guys, I ran 30 miles when I was 12.5 weeks pregnant, like literally ran an ultra marathon, and I felt good. And my body was like in the best shape it's ever been in. And I didn't have any kind of issues all the way through my pregnancy. Like, blood sugar was stable the entire time, no issues. So I've always kind of gone just to double check at a doctor, and I've done ultrasounds and things like that other than having a midwife. But my pregnancy, I can tell you hands down, was better than any of the other 7 pregnancies. And I really believe it's because of Plexus. And I was on the vitamins. I did Triplex, I did X Factor Plus, Mega X, and then I did the lean shakes every day and active. I did all of that every single day. And like, I honestly can tell you, hands down, it was the best pregnancy. I felt really good. And then, okay, here's another big thing. Every pregnancy, I would, kind of towards the end, you get, I don't know if you guys got it. I would get Charlie horses like crazy. And like throughout the night, wake up in pain. And this time didn't have a single one. And I fully believe it was Plexus, like all the magnesium. And I didn't have that one time. The heartburn was not nearly as bad. And then afterwards, after every single baby, I am a partial dairy cow, and I've been able to donate thousands and thousands of ounces of milk. I've donated to a company called Plexus. So then they take the milk and they send it to hospitals, to NICU. So I've even gotten compensated for it. So that also backing up, I did that with Quinn, and like, you have to give them everything, like pretty much sign your life away. You have to do blood tests. You have to tell them everything you're taking. I had to show them every supplement that I took, because this milk is going to premature babies, and they approved everything. So that was another, like, that was kind of when I just started Plexus, and I was like, is it okay? And they were like, yeah, totally safe. We're even going to give your milk to premature babies, even though you're doing Plexus. So that was another, like, okay, I feel like I'm doing the right thing. So every baby, like, I've always had an over milk supply. Every single baby, I get mastitis at least once, if not twice, some of them multiple times, where it knocks me out. And, or I'll get like massive clogged ducts where, oh my word, it's horrible. So with Quinn and Ian, the last 2, being on Plexus, I didn't get mastitis one time. And I'm like, hands down, we have the best probiotic that kills any yeast or any of that bacteria. And I didn't get it. So I have seen many things that I was like, man, and you like kind of journal what's happening. And I've had a journal with all my babies and kept track of different things throughout as their babies growing up in that first year. So many things have been different. And I fully believe it's been the supplements and being consistent on them. So that's a few of the things. But Lydia, I want you to share too what you've noticed, because you get to have one too.
I know. Yeah, I absolutely love that. So I noticed a big difference too, but I'm actually going to put Melissa Post on the spot, just because like, we're talking about pregnancy and we have the lactation person, right? So like, let's talk about it. So like, when it comes, so we have breastfeeding mamas on here. When it comes to that, like, what's the essential nutrition aspect that we need? So like, I love Plexus because it fills in the gaps, right? Like, we try our best and it fills in the gaps, but like, what should we really be aiming for with filling in the gaps? Like, what kind of diet should we be eating when we're having these babies and feeding them and doing things like that?
So I just picked up Shiloh from here. So like your omegas, like I heard Heather say her Mega X, that's super important for baby with breast milk and with brain health, and the DHA they get from you. Obviously it comes from your body. So you really need to, replenish your body well. So the Mega X, and then I was just telling a friend today, I really think the pink drink is ideal because it does balance that blood sugar. I seriously wish I would have had Triplex with my pregnancies and breastfeeding. I, like Heather said, always got mastitis, just tired and worn out, and, plugging away nursing. And I think that pink drink is huge for insulin levels and blood sugar balance, and helping, those postpartum hormones stay as stable as they can be. We all know they're not after a baby, and how much transition your body goes through. But as far as like helping that insulin and that blood sugar remain the same, I think looking back, that would have been huge. And then obviously the ProBio 5 and the Vital Biome. One of the other moms who struggle maybe more emotionally postpartum the vital biome and triplex, I think is a good idea, especially because of all the CFUs and the psychostrands and the vital biome. But then of course the probio 5, because it cuts through that candida buildup or, yeast in the gut. And I know, I would say until my 3rd pregnancy, I just would eat whatever I wanted during pregnancy because my family practice, similar to Heather, just said, oh, diet doesn't make a difference, or, supplements don't matter, which I, finally got educated by Shiloh number 3 and realized, yes, it does. It does matter. And then I was just telling someone today, I used to get yeast infections in pregnancy a lot because I was also eating crap. But I look back and I'm like, if I would have been on triplex, I probably wouldn't have even dealt with that. So those are probably the things that I'd speak to on nutrition and supplements with pregnancy and breastfeeding.
Okay, I want to pop back in here. I love what you did. Like, it made me like, yes, I used to have yeast infections too. Like, and I know, Melissa, you even came to the hospital to see me because I'm like, yeast infection turned into a bladder infection. And I'm like, oh,
I remember that.
Fine. Yeah. And Melissa and I've been friends for years and years and years. And I thought, it's fine, whatever. This is prior to Plexus. And I didn't go in because I'm not going to go in because I'm stubborn and I have a lot of kids. So bladder infection turns into a kidney infection, turns into a blood infection. And then they sent me to Sioux Falls to the hospital and I'm not doing well and I'm pregnant. So I started yeast infections, all the things until Plexus. I have not had one ever since Plexus. So like, amen, like it works. Jesus obviously heals too, but I have not had one. And the food, like you said, it's such a big deal. And I wish I would have known, but also I took the pink drink, the slim, all the way through breastfeeding with Queenie and the last pregnancy. And I did the hunger control. I was not trying to lose weight, period. Like, obviously I'm not, I'm trying to grow a healthy baby, but I have real big sweet tooth without Plexus. And I would make really bad food choices. So we'd go out to eat and I'm like, where's the dessert menu? That's all I'm going to order. And so I did the hunger control and I never, ever, ever had any problems with craving the bad things. And I felt like, oh, I was actually craving, like, let's do protein, healthy protein, all the healthy food options I should be eating to raise a healthy baby. And then I'll also to produce milk afterwards. But I'm so glad you brought that up, Melissa, because that pink drink is such a big deal too. And okay, Caitlin, you just wrote in the chat. Do you want to pop, because we're recording it, and I'd love for you to share quick what you wrote in the chat. Maybe she can't hear, isn't on, but Caitlin has a baby who just turned 1. Oh, she's gonna hop on. She just turned 1 and she's been using Plexus. So it'd be fun to hear her quick story too. And then Lydia, you'll have to share.
Yeah, then I'll share more. But yeah, just that nutrition stuff while she's just waiting, like just important with even so we're doing kind of a Whole30 diet right now and Andy's hating it and I think it's hilarious. But anyways, this Whole30, but like knowing the importance of complex carbs. So I am totally not doing Whole30 because my milk supply, and I know this about my body because you have to listen to your body and you learn about like what you really need. So like one day if your milk supply is low, oh, what did I do? The next day maybe it's higher. Okay, how can I mock it? What nutrition, what thing did I do to mock that, to keep it like that? And so carbs are like that for me. So brown rice, oatmeal, all of that. I am not a milk producing mama, can be without carbs. And so that was really important for me to learn about my body too, but I will add more about that.
Caitlin, do you want to?
Sure. I've hopped on late because I was working out, and then I was listening, but I was in the living room, which is like dark other than the TV that was on. So I had to come where it was light so I could talk, so you guys didn't just see a black screen. So I've hopped in the chat, but I'll say it here for the recording. So my experience, I had not been pregnant or had a baby prior to my daughter. She's my first child. And so I didn't use Plexus while I was pregnant because truthfully, I kept getting asked by Alexis and I was like, I just don't want to change anything. I'm pregnant. Don't want to do that right now. Like, very basically paranoid, I guess you could call it. Probably a lot of people have had that the first time they were ever pregnant, but basically like everything's working. So I don't want to change anything because I haven't had any problems. So I'm just going to go with it. And so then I started when she was 2 weeks old. And actually I shared this with a couple different people since, like that I have shared Plexus with, that I've been like, did it really help with your milk supply? And I like sent them pictures because I kept track of all the milk that anything that I pumped and froze while I was on maternity leave, because I was solely breastfeeding her, but then I would pump to freeze because I had an oversupply. And I barely pumped prior to starting Plexus. And then, I mean, other than when your milk first comes in, which most of you know, started pumping, and then basically intended to pump to build a supply because I knew I was going back to work. I was going to be working full time. I was going to be away from my child for 9 hours a day, where she was going to eat 3 or 4 times when she was away from me at daycare. And I was paranoid basically because I plan ahead and everything has to be organized and prepared. So, and I would have to go back and get the numbers out of the notebook, but the difference from when I started Plexus when I was 2 weeks postpartum, or 2 to 3 from when the products came in, was like 1.5 times as much that I was pumping like in a day, like in a 24-hour period, or like what I was freezing versus what I was making prior. Like I said, I don't have a prior experience, but that was my experience. And then when Heather shared about like having mastitis previously and clogged ducts, like I had a couple different friends that were like, I have a massive oversupply and now I'm always getting mastitis, and I'm always, sorry, notification. Like I'm always getting mastitis, or I'm always getting clogged ducts, and like they were just always having problems. And I was like, I don't know what to tell you. I have an oversupply and I didn't have that. And I truthfully, until you said that, Heather, I had no idea that it had a connection. I was just like, I thought I was blessed. I didn't get that. And then was the other thing that I had popped in there. So with my supply, I was able to feed her and pump enough that she basically self-weaned. She learned to crawl and get around, and she was like, learned to hold her own bottle and then just gave it up. She wanted to cuddle, but she wanted to feed herself. And so at that point, and then I had enough frozen that fed her for 4 more months. So I just thought it was like, you don't expect that when you've never had a baby before. So I was very impressed and grateful. And anybody that asked, I took a lot of photos of my pink drink with my bottles of pumped milk that I did every day, twice a day or 3 times a day at work. Because I truly coordinated with taking Plexus religiously every single day while I was breastfeeding her. And it just makes me excited for anybody that does take it, like through their pregnancy, through everything, and knowing that I'll be able to do that someday with my next baby is awesome too.
I love it. Thank you. I didn't know that about your milk supply. So that's new to me for you. So that's good. Yeah. So I started Plexus when Cole was about 8 weeks old. And so Cadence was, my water broke, and then I was in the hospital for 27 hours and they were going to do a C-section unless I could pop her out. So like I put all the oils on my feet, I put everything, and then the pain was just, I couldn't get over my pain, but I wanted to do it naturally, but I had so much Pitocin in me that it was hard. And so my mom, who's also an RN, she was like, they're going to take the baby if you don't get the pain under control and push her out. And I was like, no, I don't want a C-section. Like it was the lesser of the two evils. Right. And so I got an epidural with Cadence. And I just remember how like my body just felt a little different and it was hard to recover. And it was some of that stuff just because I think that pumps you through of just that unnatural hormone. And so that's what we all deal with. So like most women do get an epidural and it's your birth story. There's nothing wrong with it. Like Heather, she breastfeeds her baby for a year and doesn't give him any other food. That's not my story. So Cole, when he's 7 months, he'll get some other food. And so I just think it's so important as we're talking about this is like, it's your story. All of our stories are different because we're all different mamas, but we can come together as a community and say, hey, what was your story? Hey, what worked with you? Hey, what worked with you? Hey, there's a lactation person that I know. Let me ask her some questions and just kind of feed off of each other. I just think community is absolutely huge. And so that's what I was passionate about. Okay, so back to Cadence's story. And so I did end up getting that epidural, hated it. It made this hand, all 3 fingers went numb for months. I think it was 6 months before I actually had feeling again, but I didn't have to have a C-section. So it was 100% worth it for me. Recovery was pretty easy for her. I had a lot of postpartum blues, but never like to postpartum depression or anything like that. But my milk supply was ridiculous. Like it was awful. I could not sleep through the night. I had to wake up at 4 o'clock to pump every morning, even though she slept through the night. It just was so much. I leaked everywhere. Like I never ever got to sleep very good or on my side because I was just overfull all the time. And so Plexus has done the opposite for me with Cole. That was also my fear when I had Cole. So I had Cole, I labored at home until I was about 7. About 6. Then we went to Pipestone and I delivered in a hospital, but I got there and they're like, what do you need? Let's put an IV. And I'm like, I just need to push this baby out. Like, give me some room. I'll push this baby out. It'll be fine. And so that's what I did. So they were like, well, tell me when you have to like, feel like you have to poop. And I never felt that. I was like, I don't ever have to poop, but there's like something going on down there. Like, I need you guys to check. And as soon as they did, they're like, oh, baby. And so he came very fast. He came within an hour of us getting to the hospital. So thank God we got there. Right. So I didn't have anything with him and he came home, but he was a super fussy baby. So for 8 weeks, he did not sleep for more than 2 hours. It was miserable. And I had a toddler at home. So trying to function with Cadence and be a new mom and do the two, it was just awful. And so I told Melissa, I was like, I have had diarrhea for the last 8 weeks. I can't sleep. Like I need something for energy. And then I also have ADD. So like my focus was everywhere and I couldn't do it. And I was just like, and I need something for focus and I can't take my med because I'm going to breastfeed. And so Melissa's like, well, I have this Plexus stuff. And I was like, well, let me have some information. And so like, I'm a red. So like I read everything. I had to see everything. And then I was like, whatever. But I was so miserable that I was willing to try. And so through that, I started overproducing again with Cole. And like, I was just, like with Cadence, I never got mastitis, but it was always on the verge. And so my mom would be like, here's what you need to do right away. And so I'd handle it naturally and with oils all the time. But I had milk ducts that were just clogged on my nipples all the time. Like it was awful. And I started to get that with Cole. And then I started taking Slim and doing the triplex and doing all of that. And my milk production actually went down. And I was able to feed him and still have milk supply, but not overproduce. So it's almost like Plexus did exactly what my body needed. You know what I mean? Like we all are different. And so it takes it and it does exactly what I needed it to do. But with that, I didn't know I was so stressed either. And that was kind of hard postpartum. Like they're like, oh, you have the baby blues. Oh, you have this. No, I'm stressed. Like my stress hormones are everywhere. I was just like all over the place. And so I started taking Biome, and that has dramatically changed my postpartum journey. I am not upset all the time. I'm not stressed. I'm not all of that stuff that I was with Cadence, and I get to enjoy him in just a different aspect than I did with Cadence. And so that's been really cool for my body. But I want to talk about what happened with Cole. So like I said, he didn't sleep for 8 weeks. It was awful. I mean, I want 2 more. Andy's like, we're done. I'm not having any more. Like, we are done. And I was like, no, I can't be done. Like, Cole, you're making it so you're my last. Like, stop it. Just sleep. And I started taking Slim and all of so I got the weight loss advanced kit. So I got the triplex and then the weight loss stuff for the shakes and things of that nature. And no joke, within 3 days of taking Plexus, Cole started sleeping through the night. And his temperament went down. We used to have to give him gas drops like 5 times a day because his tummy was so upset. And he stopped that. He stopped everything. And now people are like, and Melissa, you've seen him a lot. Sarah, you've seen him. He's the calmest baby I have ever met. But that's not how he was prior to Plexus. He was awful. And I can say that now, but like it was hard for me. And so like he's done really well and he doesn't really get sick. He doesn't get any of that. His whole daycare class was sick and he is still like a trooper. And I know it's because our gut health is getting under control, and nobody talks about that. So like postpartum journeys or pregnancy journeys or wanting to be pregnant, they don't talk about what your gut health is doing for you and the baby, what your gut health is doing for your hormones and all of that. And so that's where I'm most passionate about, because it's like, why aren't we talking to these moms about how their gut is controlling all these other aspects? So we cover the symptoms, but we don't ever cover the gut health. And so that's kind of how this whole class came to be.
Oh my word. That's amazing. Just you, I wish I could have seen your baby before, but I know you, like you said, the other girls have gotten to like see it for real. So that's incredible. The story of your milk supply and the baby. And I'm so glad he's sleeping. And I agree. Like, why aren't we talking about this more? And I love what you said, Lydia. Like, my birth story and the way I raise my babies is completely different than the next person. And that's totally fine. But that's also how we learn. Like, I can take a nugget from what you do, and it might be completely different than what I've done. And maybe I'll do something different or try something different. And I love that we can love one another wherever we're at. And it doesn't mean someone's way is right and the other person's isn't. But I think it's just so great to get to come and share and keep on learning. And let's figure out, like you said, like, stop covering the problem and get to the gut health and the root of it and fix it. But anyway, this has been so great. I'm going to stop the recording real quick.